I just wanted to do a quick touch on the ages for for lack of a better term, for dummies. Like they got those tutorial books. So let's just start it out super easy. Yeah, you got my schizophrenic. You know, when I was wanting to be a teacher of the law. So I know the law, a little bit about the law. Um, but so age 1 is between verse 1 and 2 here. I know this is King James Version, so it's not, the translation's not super great when it says without form and void, but it's before the destruction or disruption of the world, which my personal guess from other scriptures is the world, where it says in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. So there was an earth before it got disrupted, and same with the heavens. And I'm guessing this was the time of, when Satan was made perfect until iniquity was found in him, and then did what he did. That's what then caused, this whole darkness. And because, from looking at God's plan, he needed that to happen so that then there could be this temptation in the garden, because who let him in the garden after all, right? So don't let the language of certain things confuse you. But see, then, so Eon 2 then starts right after here with the creation story. And then Eon 3 starts, after the flood. But to get to then pretty much all the rest of the book, minus off what Paul talks about in some of his letters, especially 1 Corinthians chapter 15, all the rest of the book is leading up to and prophesying about the 4th eon. So like even in Revelation, it's the whole end of the story here. When it talks about the New Jerusalem coming down, we'll see New Jerusalem, that's for Israel, right? And the circumcision, which is then for the law. So where's this gospel of the uncircumcision come in? Well, it comes in afterwards, because you get a little bit of a hint right here at the end of Revelation 22. For I testify unto every man that heareth the words of the prophecy of this book, if you add unto these things, blah blah blah. He gives this warning or threat under authority, right? Rule and authority is an important concept to knowing the difference between the 4th eon and the 5th eon. Let's see. And so what this right here is actually quoting back to the law. It's in Deuteronomy chapter 4. And so this is how you know that it's part of the gospel of the circumcision. Like, literally the whole book of Revelation. So to get the timestamps, there's chapter 4. I think it's in verse 2, chapter 4. You'll not add unto the word, neither shall you diminish offer, so do not add or take away from it. It's literally just him re-quoting the same commandment from Deuteronomy chapter 4 at the end of Revelation there, from the book of this prophecy. See, the book of this prophecy. So this would be, the circumcision prophecy. But when you go and read 1 Corinthians 15, and you use a little bit, just use a few brain cells, when he says that he, must reign. Where is it? I'm trying to remember. It's in, I'm too far ahead. Where is it? But every man in his own order. Yeah, so for all, as in Adam, all die, even so for Christ shall all be made alive. Or so, even so in Christ shall all be made alive. See, this is even some of these, okay, how you can tell that's mine, but these ones where it's shadowed and then overlined were study notes of my dad back in the day. And he had a whole method that the ones he thought that certain scriptures were not scriptural or were added in by man, and some were actually inspired by God. And so the ones that are outlined in red, he took them as his foundations of his beliefs. So it makes sense when I see him that he for as in Adam all die. He's like, oh yeah, so everybody dies, or is dying. Even so, in Christ shall all be made alive. So he knows then that there's a good end of the story for everybody. But every man in his own order, Christ the first fruits, after they that are Christ at his coming. Now that's an interesting one. They that are Christ at his coming. Now that could be a twofold thing. But anyway, I don't want to get off track. I want to get back to the rulership and authority. Then cometh the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom to God. See, so then verse 23 is pretty much summarizing the whole Eon 4. Because then after Eon 4, and the whole book of Revelation, 1,000 years, Satan's released, white throne judgment, all this other stuff. Then cometh the end, when he shall have delivered up the kingdom. And so who is he? That would be Christ. To God. See? Christ delivers it up to God. So Christ isn't literally God. Even the Father, see, God is the Father. Christ Dad. When he shall have put down all rule and all authority. Whoa, that's a big concept right there. All rule and all authority and power. So that means any threats of the end of the book of Revelation, when adding the plagues thereof. And anybody take away, you take us out of the book of life and out of the holy seat. So, okay, so you say you do that, and he does take your way out of the book of life. Well, he delivers he lays down all rule and authority and gives it back to God. So God's then the one who has the authority over all those things. And then when, death is abolished, well, that means that all the people who are out of the book of life can be literally put back in again. It's really interesting. For he must reign till he hath put all enemies under his feet. So he's got to do all this stuff to show everybody the full extent of what you can do with all rule and all authority and power. That's what Christ's going to do. And then the last enemy that shall be destroyed is death. Because then once death is destroyed, then Christ has no more enemies. And then that's when he gives all rule and authority and power, lays it all down, and delivers the kingdom back to God. And that's how you have the end of the 1,000 years, but then it's also the end of death. So anybody who is in the, who had died in the second death is resurrected again. For he hath put all things under his feet. And so this is all leading up to the last eon, the fifth eon, the consummation of all time and everything. It's talked about in Second Baruch in chapter 29 and 30 and 31 a little bit, but Paul goes into the most clear-cut detail of it right here. For he hath put all things under his feet, but when he saith all things are put under him, it is manifest that he is accepted. It's not he puts himself under his own feet. He talking about Christ right here, which did put all things under him. Wait, it is manifest that he is accepted. He doesn't put God under his feet, right? Obviously, which did put all things under him. And when all things shall be subdued unto him, being Christ, then shall the Son also himself be subject unto him, God, that put all things under him, that God may be all in all. So it's just, and then I think this is the other reason why my dad never had me baptized. A number of different things. It didn't have me raised in church because he did a little bit of reading. But yeah, this is like the linchpin right here that you won't hear about this in a Christian church, or a Jewish synagogue for that matter either. But yeah, it's a big concept. Most of the whole book is all leading up to and talking about the fourth eon, but the fifth eon is the giving up of all rulership, power, and authority, because once death is abolished, you got nothing. There's no point in rulership or authority and power, because there's no threats, of if you go against some ruler or authority, they can kill you, right? Put you to death. But once death is gone, then there's no more point in rulership, authority, and power. So, yeah, it's interesting. But hope you have a great day.